Stampers, this is Dawn from DawnStampingThoughts.net, and today we're going to make this little house. We're using the Sweet Home stamp set and then also the Home Sweet Home Thinlits. And this one I put some candy inside so you can see that. Got a Tootsie Roll and another Tootsie Roll inside of the roof. Isn't it cute? Alright, so there's a lot of die cutting to this little house. So let's go ahead and get the stamping done and then we'll get the big shot. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first we're going to go ahead and emboss. We're going to use the Versamark ink pad with the Whisper White embossing powder. And we're going to stamp on the vellum. Now these candy houses we made at the Stamp-A-Palooza event. And this was Devette's little house that she had for the make and take. So we got to make that at the event. We're going to first go ahead and stamp the ghost and the little cobweb. And those stamps are from the Sweet Home stamp set. And then the coordinating Thinlits, this is the Home Sweet Home Thinlits. You can buy these two in a bundle and save 10%. So the ghost and the cobweb, and then also the little banner with the, I think we're going to use the trick or treat for the banner. So we're going to stamp the ghost and the cobweb onto a piece of vellum. And I'm going to first use my embossing buddy. Okay, so we're going to stamp the ghost. Now there is a Thinlit for this to cut the ghost out, but not for the cobweb. So we'll just have to fussy cut the cobweb out. Okay, and then we'll pour our white embossing powder over that. Okay, we'll set that aside. Now we're going to stamp the banner. Okay, we're going to use the Memento ink for the banner part of the front door. That's right here. And then we're going to use the trick or treat, and that stamps right inside that tiny little banner. I'm going to use the pumpkin pie for that. Let me grab some Whisper White. Stamp the banner first. Okay, and then we're going to stamp the trick or treat. Hopefully I can get this in the center without putting my head in the camera. Good enough. Okay, so now before I go any further, I want to show you what I did with the designer paper. So I went ahead already and cut out the front of the house. You'll see that here. Okay, and what I did for that is I took the stamp set, the Sweet Home, and I took the house stamp in the stamp set and I stamped the back side of the designer paper, and then I just hand cut that out. You could probably use the Thinlit that we're going to cut out the boxes with, but it's a little bit too big. So I just went ahead and used that stamp and hand cut that out. So now we're going to have to emboss this. I forgot that. So let's emboss this ghost and the cobweb. Okay, so now let's grab the big shot. So we're going to cut out the banner. There's 22 pieces to this Thinlit set. So you get lots of little pieces to it to build your house and make it really fun. So there's the trick or treat. And then we're going to cut out the ghost. So there's our banner and our ghost. So cute, especially on vellum. I love that. All right, so now we're gonna fussy cut out the cobweb, and I'll do that in a little bit. Okay, so I'm using the basic gray cardstock, and this is cut at 5.5 by 8.5. And you're gonna be able to cut 2 of these out, which is what you need for your house. Okay, so now we're going to cut out the basic black. Just have a smaller piece here. So I went ahead already and cut out all the little shingles, and this is the shingle part of the roof. and you're going to need 10 of those. So let me show you that. And then you're going to notice on your thinlits that you have 4 sets of windows. We're going to use this one and this one. Now if you wanted to cut out the window on the actual house, you would use this one right here, and then that would actually cut the window out, and then you could have it like a piece of vellum behind it or a piece of window sheet. But we're just going to cut the frame of the windows out. So we're just going to use those, and we're going to cut one of the like the oval shape and then 2 of the square. Okay, so let me show you what these look like. So here's the shingle. Now remember, you're going to need 10 of these. These are for the roof, and you're going to need 5 for each side. And I went ahead already and cut all those out. So now these are the windows, or the window frame. So there's the square one, and then here's the oval one that's going to go above the door. So let me cut another one of the square ones out. Okay, so now we're going to cut the front door. I took a piece of basic black and I just folded it in half, and I took my bone folder to get a really nice edge. And then I opened it up again, and then I burnished it this side. And I did that a few times because I want that edge to be really nice for a front door. This is the one I made after. So there's my door. It's hinged. So on this hinged part of the door, we're going to grab this die, this thinlet right here. This is the door. And then you'll notice this one is your oval and then your square. So you have your front door in a square, and then this would be the frame of the door, and then this would be the frame for the oval door. So we're going to use the oval, and I'm just going to put this thinlet right outside of that edge so it stays connected just like that. And I gotta actually move it because it's not there. Okay, so you just got a slight edge there so it stays hinged, the black cardstock. Then your door is hinged. See, like that. Isn't it cute? All right, and then you might want to run this through a couple times so it cuts through both pieces of the layer of the black cardstock. Okay, so I think that's all the cutting that we need to do with the big shot. So let's move that out of the way. Okay, so now what I did ahead of time, which we're going to do right now, is I went ahead and used some pumpkin pie glimmer paper. And you're just going to glue your window frames onto the glimmer paper, because on my windows I have the glimmer paper showing through, and it's much easier just to go ahead and glue this down first and let that dry while you make the house. So I'm just using the liquid glue, lid glue, and then you're just going to go ahead and set that right onto the pumpkin pie glimmer paper. And like I said, I went ahead already and did that, so that's already dry. Okay, so then you would just go ahead and cut these out. Take my paper snips. And you're just going to follow around the frame of the window that you glued down. Okay, so there's our 3 windows. Now we're going to go ahead and fussy cut out the little spider web. Okay, so having all your pieces done makes the house go together so much faster. Okay, so there's our banner for the front door, our ghost, and then our shingles, part of the roof here. Have all those cut out. And then I have one of the designer papers for the front of the house. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and burnish all the edges of our score lines. And when you cut this out with your thinlet, all the score lines are also there. Okay, so both of our pieces are folded. Now we're going to decide on which part is going to be for the front. So now I'm going to put my front of my house for this piece of designer paper. So that's going to go there. Okay, so now we're going to do some stamping. We're going to use the stamp set called Ghoulish Grunge. We're going to use this brick right here. And I'm going to use the basic gray. And we're going to stamp on the other 3 walls that doesn't have the designer paper. So we're going to stamp here, here, and here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and sponge the edges. So I'm going to decide now the front of my house, I want this side of my roof to open up for the candy. Okay, so I don't want to put adhesive here, but I'm going to put adhesive here, here, and then also on the very bottom. So I'm going to use my fast fuse. Okay, then on my finished one, my other side, I'm going to put adhesive on this side and right here. We're going to go ahead, once this adhesive is on here, I guess I should have waited to put the adhesive on, but now we're going to put our shingles on. And the only trick for this is I'm going to use the green lid glue, and I'm going to start at the very bottom, and you want to have like an overhang of your shingles. And then once you start stacking them, you're going to off center the shingle part. So it's going to look like that. Okay. And then just continue all the way up to that score line and then do the other side that way too. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so now we're going to trim off our shingles, and I'm just going to follow the shape of the house and cut down. Same on this side. Okay, so now our shingles should look like that. Then we're going to do the same thing on this one. So I think the shingles takes the longest part, just because you need so many of them. And this glue will dry clear, so don't worry about that. Okay, so now it's just a matter of putting the house together. So let's go ahead and line this part up over here. You're going to line this bottom edge. Let me fold this here so you can see it probably a little bit better on the camera. Take your adhesive part of your house over here and fold that in. Just like that. Then fold this over and seal that down. Okay. All right, now we're going to build our roof. So we're going to fold in the 2 parts that have the adhesive and fold that over. Just like that. So then this piece does not have any adhesive on the inside or on the flap, so you can actually just tuck this in, and then that's where you would put your candy. Then you're going to fold your flap in right here, and then this is going to fold to the back because this is the front of the house. Isn't it cute? All right, now we're going to go ahead and decorate. We're going to put the door on first. And then we can position the window above that. Okay. Then the oval window goes up on the top. Then we'll put a window on each of the sides. Cute. All right, now we're going to put our ghost. I'm just going to use some liquid glue. Just going to put some glue on the bottom of the ghost. Just a little bit. And, tuck that in there like that. Then our little cobweb is going to go up here in the top. And then our little banner, I'm just going to cut a little piece of dimensional. Put that right here. And put it on the door. Cute. And then for the door handle, we're using the Halloween Night enamel dots. And I'm just going to use this orange one here for the door handle. Isn't it cute? And then look, the top opens. Now you could put a tea light inside of there too. I have a Snickers little fun size. And then the Tootsie Roll again. Oh, that fits right inside there. Really cute. Okay. Cute. So there's that one. And then here's the other two. Okay. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you later. Bye.